Hello and welcome to another very special episode of Clutchcast. I'm Matt Schroyer and I'm here with my good friend and project car, the BMW Z3 Roadster. Now a while back I embarked on a journey to do an entire coolant system refresh here on this Roadster, coming up on almost 20 years and about 120,000 miles. And as part of that long process, ended up taking off the intake manifold, which means taking off the throttle body, and also disconnecting the throttle cable. So that gave a good opportunity to inspect and potentially replace the throttle cable. I found that the throttle cable was pretty well worn, but it was a good time to replace it anyway with all the other parts out. So I began on the process to do that. Ran into a little complication with where the foot pedal meets with the floor of the car. That metal bracket had rusted through its connection with the floor and broke off when I removed the gas pedal. So I had to go ahead and epoxy that to the floor with some JB Weld. So now that that is done, it's time to actually take care of the root of the problem here that I wanted to address, and that was to replace the throttle cable in this car. Now the throttle cable is a little tricky to replace in this car. I'll go ahead and show you why that is, and I'll dig right into the job. Okay, so here we are underneath the hood. The intake manifold is removed, and the throttle cable is disconnected from the throttle body. Here's the end with that ball tip, and this is the reason why I'm deciding to replace this. You can see that the sheathing is a little broken, and the metal sheathing underneath is starting to rust, and also this is not as flexible as the new one I have. But anyway, this is what it looks like on about a 123,000 mile BMW. Otherwise maintained very well, and it can appear to be difficult to remove because, well, just looking at it this way, not sure where exactly to yank from. So here we have, again, that throttle cable. It snakes all the way back into the back here behind this brake servo unit. And, you know, so you're looking over here and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to yank it out from this end? Am I supposed to yank it out from inside the driver's compartment? You're actually supposed to take it out in the engine bay. Supposed to yank it out this way. That's easier said than done. Here I have a brand new throttle cable for a BMW Z3 Roadster 2.5 from the year 2000. Actually 2.3 from the year 2000. And this is why it can be difficult to remove. So this hook end will of course go inside the cabin and connect to the throttle pedal assembly. But this right here is a plastic clip, and this is actually what keeps this cable secured to the car. You can see two ears here, and they are very stiff, even here on this new one, and I imagine even more so on the old one. And so the trick is to get these to compress inward and then pull out from under the engine bay. And what seems to be the preferred mode of removal for this throttle cable is actually to go inside of the car and try to beat it out from inside with a socket extension, or just break the clips off and try to push it out from inside the cabin into the into the engine section of the car underneath the hood. So that's what I'm going to try to do. You're going to have to remove some panels, and I'll show you what all needs to be removed coming up. Here we have the interior of the Roadster. You can see that the interior trim, the kick panels, are removed, as is the knee protector in this area, the aluminum knee protector. You simply cannot get great access to that throttle cable without those being removed. You can see the end, the hook end here, of the throttle cable goes all the way back up right there. That, my friends, is the place we need to attack, either by clipping the tabs that's holding that in place, or just knocking it out. Either way is fine by me. There is not much access here, so you have to plan accordingly for some tight spaces. You can see that the insulation here seems to have drifted down a little bit too, which potentially will interfere with the job. But we'll see what we can do here to get this throttle cable out of the car. Great news! Took all these tools in various moments in time, but if you see back there, oh, focus, right there. Okay, so that is the remains of the throttle cable. I actually cut the cable, so that's just the sheath and the clip in there, and as you can see, it is nearly all the way through the firewall, and I'm nearly done hammering it out into the engine bay. So yeah, that was quite an ordeal. It's still not done yet. You just have to whittle away at it, basically. You alternate between hammering at it with, a socket extension or pole, or really whatever you have, maybe a long flathead screwdriver. That's what I used down here, this fellow. But whatever the case may be, you get in there and you try to, hammer at it, and then you try to clip at it, and hammer it again and clip at it until it's about ready to leave. So you don't really have a whole lot of ways to get in there. You can get your hand through the bottom here, wiggle it through the steering column and get it that way. And you can snake an extension back here. Of course, there's a clear shot right there for an extension or a really long screwdriver. But either way, not a whole lot of access. It took a lot of time to do this. I'm not totally done yet, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the job. And we'll see you on the other side. Well, look what we have here. We have a very much mangled throttle cable, or whatever is remaining of that throttle cable. Yeah, so it is out through the engine bay, and you can see the hole where you're supposed to put in the new throttle cable way back there. That's light coming from the engine compartment. However, this is a very tight space, and I'm wondering how this is going to play out exactly, because you still have to angle it correctly to get it through there. I don't know. I think the idea is that you snake the hook end through it, and you try to get it in as best a position as you can. Push it in there, and then maybe tug a little bit from inside in the engine, or in the footwell there of the driver's side of the car on the interior, and yank on that hook until it gets snapped into place. At least that's my theory. I'm going to go ahead and put it to the test and see if it works or not. Happy news! So this is the throttle cable fully installed. If I just get a better view. So that is the new throttle cable's retaining clip. And it's in place. It clipped real nice. Basically, this hook was already threaded through. I had to use the assistance of a long, thin, flathead screwdriver to actually position this in place a little bit before, and then given enough yanking on this, shouldn't take too much, but it will just pop into place. It really does just want to fit in its home. So I'm glad, I'm relieved that after all that trouble, it was that simple to go ahead and pop the new one in place. There's just a couple more steps. Of course, putting all the kick panels back in and all that, and the knee protection. But this, of course, hooks into the this lever right here, where the gas pedal is. But as you can see, there's no grommet for that to attach to. And it's the case that on this car, about, again, 125,000 miles, that grommet was just completely worn through. It disintegrated as soon as I looked at it. I mean, one breath on it and it was gone. So I'm glad I've got to this point. I'm going to pop in a new grommet here, attach the whole thing together, and it's just going to be super satisfying. I'm not going to waste any more time doing that. Okay, check it out. New throttle cable. So installed the grommet here, and also put in some copper anti-seize just for that connection there, and seems to be working excellent. So I'm very pleased with this. I think this is going to be well worth it. This cable should last an additional 20 years. I'm not sure who or what will be driving this car when it's 40 years old, but it sure will have a working throttle cable, so I'm very happy about that. Okay, so what did I learn today? I learned that a throttle cable can be a pain in the butt on this car to remove. A lot of hammering, a lot of cutting, a lot of tight spaces, cut up knuckles, I suppose. But I also learned that putting the throttle cable back into the car, much easier. However, if you're about to do the job on your car, I would suggest you give yourself an entire weekend to do it. You know, it's never fun to do a car project on a very strict timeline. Give yourself plenty of time to do this. Don't get frustrated. Take plenty of breaks on the way. You know, all that usual advice. This job is still not entirely done. I still have a bunch of kick panels to put back into place. You will still need to calibrate this throttle cable to your throttle body to make sure that you don't over-rev the car at idle. Make sure you got a nice smooth low idle, and also make sure it opens up all the way at full throttle. But that'll be on a different episode of Clutchcast. Again, this is Matthew Schroyer with the BMW Z3 Roadster. I want to thank you for joining me, and we'll see you down the road.